Capitalism is an economic system based on private ownership and profit as the main driving force of the economy. In this system, individuals and companies have the right to own factories, stores, and land, and they can sell whatever they want at prices determined by the market, not by the government. The core idea of capitalism is that people are free to work, produce, and trade. The harder or smarter a person works in investing their money, the more profit they can make. The government's role is limited, it mainly lets the market operate freely. For example, if you have an idea for a business, like a cafe or a shop, you can start it and make money from it. In capitalism, you don't need permission from the government, and it doesn't interfere with your project. Your success or failure is decided by the market itself. Supporters of capitalism say it encourages innovation and motivates people to work and produce more. But critics argue that it can lead to large gaps between the rich and the poor, because those who already have money often have more opportunities than others. In short, capitalism is an economic system that gives individuals the freedom to own and manage their wealth, relying on competition and profit to drive the economy forward. In liberalism, individuals have the right to choose their lives, express their opinions, and participate freely in elections. The government exists to protect human rights and the law, but it intervenes minimally in people's daily lives. The core idea of liberalism is that people are free to think, work, and make decisions, and that protecting individual freedom and equality before the law is the path to a fair society. Supporters of liberalism say it encourages innovation, education, and free enterprise, providing an environment where individuals can express themselves and achieve their ambitions. However, critics argue that it can sometimes lead to social or economic gaps if there is no support for poorer classes, because complete individual freedom does not always guarantee fair distribution of resources. In short, liberalism is an ideology that gives individuals freedom in thought, work, and political participation, while respecting law and human rights and promoting democracy and equality. Conservatism is a political ideology that focuses on preserving social and religious traditions and values, and it emphasizes social stability and governance based on law and order. In conservative thought, society has the right to respect customs and traditions, and the government should play a role in protecting these values and ensuring social stability. The core idea of conservatism is that change should be gradual, and that preserving traditional institutions such as family, religion, and community helps maintain a cohesive and stable society. Supporters of conservatism say it protects society from chaos and encourages personal responsibility and hard work. However, critics argue that it can sometimes hinder innovation or social progress, because it emphasizes the past and traditional values more than change. Socialism is a political and economic ideology that aims to reduce class differences and ensure a fair distribution of wealth, with a focus on collective or state ownership of key resources. In socialism, individuals have the right to work, but the government plays a larger role in regulating the economy and providing essential services like education and healthcare to ensure social justice. The core idea of socialism is that wealth and resources should be distributed more fairly among people, reducing the gap between the rich and the poor. Supporters of socialism say it encourages solidarity and equality, and protects vulnerable groups from poverty and exploitation. However, critics argue that it can sometimes limit individual freedom and innovation, because the government has greater control over the economy. Communism is a political and economic ideology that aims to create a classless society where wealth and resources are shared equally among all people. In a communist system, private ownership is abolished, and the state or community controls production and distribution to ensure complete equality. Libertarianism is a political ideology that focuses on individual freedom and limiting the role of government as much as possible. Libertarians believe that people should be free to make their own personal and economic choices as long as they do not harm others. Supporters of libertarianism believe that freedom leads to creativity and progress, while critics argue that it can cause inequality and reduce support for the poor since the government plays only a minimal role. Feminism is a social and political ideology that aims to achieve full equality between women and men in rights and opportunities, whether in education, work, or political and social life. Feminism emerged in the 19th century as a response to the discrimination and oppression faced by women and evolved through several waves, each with specific goals, such as the right to vote, access to education, participation in the workforce, and personal autonomy. Supporters of feminism believe it contributes to justice, equality, and social development, while some critics argue that certain forms of the movement may overly focus on individual rights at the expense of social or traditional balance. During the period between the two world wars, a political movement known as Nazism emerged in Germany. This movement was based on ideas of German racial superiority and extreme nationalism, and it sought complete control over the state and society. Nazism implemented dictatorial policies that included control of the media and education, and it committed widespread crimes against Jews and other minorities, including the Holocaust, one of the largest chapters of human atrocities in the 20th century. These policies led to World War II and caused massive destruction and tremendous human suffering.